Sitting here on the top rail of the fence at the podcast ranch, overlooking the open plains of Canton, Ohio. This is the Hump Podcast, and I am your host, Jon Deitz.
All things are possible. That's what they told me when I was young.
The Hump Podcast is about hardworking people who, with blood on their knuckles, calluses on their hands, scabs on their shins, and sweat on their brow. People who, out of sheer principle, just would not quit. And by continued, tenacious hard work, found themselves in positions that could make a difference in someone else's life as well as their own, just from being hard working class humps. Humility, love, and genuine respect for all in perpetuity. Humble, unwavering, motivated people sacrificing for all.
Welcome, Apex Chasers, to another live stream on the Apex Communications Network. As always, I am your host, Jon Deitz. And for all of my followers that are watching this right now, that are hopping on the live, specifically more than likely because they're anticipating me being in a large crowd of loud humans, I hate to disappoint you as far as what you're going to witness here. It's not going to be me in a crowd of protesters. However, if you are looking for some really solid, productive conversation, some really good advice, and maybe some insights into ways that you can live your life in a potentially better outcome, this is a good place for you to come hang out, as me and John tend to have relatively in-depth, positive conversations. So for those of you, this is your first time tuning in, this is my personal friend, close mentor, and then also the host of the Working Class Hump Podcast on the Apex Communications Network, Mr. Jon Deitz. We have known each other for coming up on 2 years. We met at Samantha's restaurant in North Canton, just kind of on a whim. I was getting off of a shift at Altman. He had been to that restaurant maybe once in the last 5 or 6 years. We ran into each other at the breakfast bar, hit it off, and ever since then we've been having constant productive conversations, anywhere from the middle of the day to 4 o'clock in the morning. So, John, I always appreciate it, and welcome to another episode of Wisdom with Jon Deitz.
Thank you, Yanko.
Man, so with everything going on right now, I'm actually kind of excited about these 3 questions specifically. And for the majority of this audience to be introduced to you. So we'll just kind of play this episode as if it were kind of one of our first ones. Just kind of introduce yourself, who you are, where you're from, just because I'm anticipating the fact that there may be a large influx of new listeners tonight.
Well, I'm just Jon Deitz, grew up in Greentown, and like you said, we got to know each other quite by accident and or happen chance, however you want to call it. And so I don't know if any of my comments help, but I hope they do.
Good. And that's something that I've always really admired and enjoyed about you specifically, John. I actually got complimented on something that I like to call operating out of the Deitz Playbook this week. And there was an opportunity that I had to potentially capitalize on some either breaking news or whatever you would like to call it as far as a story. However, I opted to push that out to 1480. And my friend Noah at WHBC put out the story first. I retweeted it, pushed it out, and assisted in providing push to WHBC. And I got some messages back from people that basically said, this is one of the reasons why we love following you, because you're not consistently self-serving. You're willing to help the community, even if it means you don't necessarily get as many of the views or whatever else, right? And I say that that's one of my Deitz playbook principles is passing on that love, or being kind and pushing it off, not constantly being self-centered.
Yeah, I mean, I think the whole thing should be about helping others or just doing what's best or what's right. So, if it falls your way, great, and if it doesn't your way, it's okay too. But try to do the right thing.
Right, right. So, for those of you that are just tuning in for the first time, part of what this show entails is essentially there's an assignment that I give all new potential podcast hosts, and it's called the 52 Theses. And so when me and Jon first met, one of the things that he expressed to me is that he felt like he had a message that was able to get pushed out and potentially help people. And we have these feelings internally constantly that we're looking at how can we get this out to people to potentially help them. And what I ended up doing is we teach this method where we call it the 52 Theses. Jon blew those 52 theses, which are essentially just quotes that you've heard throughout your life, out of the water. I mean, we've got over 100 quotes at this point. And so this Wisdom with Jon Deitz, or the Jon Deitz Playbook that happens every Wednesday at between 7 and 7:30, is essentially 3 quotes off of that playbook that me and Jon decide to go over and try to offer some practical ways to apply it in your daily life. So this week's lessons, you can see those 3 right there inside of the comments there. So if you would like, what I would promote is share this on a watch party, put it on your page, invite people that you think need to hear a little bit of positivity right now and want to engage in some type of discussion that doesn't necessarily pertain to the protests or any of the other streams, but will also be able to provide them value in life. So, Jon, we'll just go ahead and dive right in. This first question right here says, don't count the days, make the days count. Why don't we elaborate on that?
Well, it's because I think so many times we do end up, looking out and hoping that one day your ship will come in, hoping that one day something big will happen for you in your life, and you're looking away, as opposed to the same thing you and I talk about all the time. Incrementally make yourself a little tiny bit better every day. And so just don't waste the day. It's the one time is the one non-renewable resource we have. And once it's over, and like I tell people all the time, it's not the second hand on the clock that's just going tick, tick, tick. It's the hundredths of a second. That's how fast time's going, by hundredths of a second. And so you're every day you're doing something, and that's the one thing. It doesn't matter if you're rich, poor, black, white, man, woman. Does not matter. We all get the same amount of time each day, and so you might as well make your days count. Have a goal, work towards it, and like I tell you all the time, as long as you're incrementally, you don't have to take giant steps. Giant steps are good if you can get them. You don't have to take giant steps. Just as long as you're just incrementally just advancing the cause, whatever your cause is, just continue to advance the cause. Move it forward just a little bit every day. All of a sudden, one day you look back. I'll tell you what's a great example. Take a walk. Take a walk sometime and look at your clock and just go for a walk, a normal pace. I'm going to tell you what, you walk 10, 15 minutes. It's shocking how much ground you can cover. But it's just one step at a time, one little step at a time. You're not running, you're not sprinting, you're just taking a step at a time. And you do that, you get a podcast in, or your favorite music, or walking with a friend, and you walk for 20 minutes, it's staggering how far you can get. So anyway, that's my metaphor, that's my example. But it's critical to me that we don't waste any time if we can help it. I've been in situations in my life that opened my eyes to how incredibly short life is and can be. My mom died when she was 88 years old. Life went too fast for her at 88. There's a lot of people with a lot less time than that. So since we don't know how many grains of sand are left in the hourglass, let's get as much done as we can. If it's loving your family, if it's cutting the grass, if you have a dream of advancing something like your podcast and all this stuff, whatever it is, don't just sit and watch time go by. Try to advance your cause, whatever your cause is, and do not count the days. Make the days count.
So, man, I've always admired the storyline that you're able to paint off of a sentence, just a single, group of words. That statement, right? I mean, it's kind of a pseudo cliche, but one of the other cool things that I think that we're able to do is we take a lot of cliches and we expand upon them. Because
Hey,
one
Jon,
thing, yeah.
you're breaking up on my end.
Okay, give me 1 second. Let's see if I can fix some of this. Any better?
That's better right there.
Okay. So, anyway, so one of the things that I think that we're able to do really well here is take cliches and turn them into something that's not necessarily a cliche, it's just expanded upon. So what I really love about that don't count the days, make the days count is that it's really, really easy to get lost in that one step in front of the other. People want progress to happen super quickly. They get this goal or this idea in their head, they write it down on their whiteboard, they put it on their calendar, and then they attempt to try to hit that goal, but they start it and then they anticipate being able to accomplish it right away. I see this all the time with businesses, with social media. I see it with people trying to learn a new skill. I see it pretty much everywhere, is that we have this internal impatience to want to be able to be good at something as soon as we start it. And outside of the days concept, it's narrowed down even more. So you have it narrowed down to that hundredths of a second is how fast time is going. When it comes to learning a skill and stuff like that, the point that I try to point out to people is you have these days, you have all of this time to be able to try to learn this new skill. You are going to end up more able and better at a skill if you do it over a longer period of time than if you were just to go from 0 to 1,000,000 overnight. Like a surgeon that has done 1,500 surgeries is way
Let me
more
just say
apt.
something.
Go ahead.
You're breaking up terribly again, but let me just say this. It's like in any business. Can you hear me okay? Can you hear me okay? Shake your head, yes or no.
Yeah, you're good.
Okay, because I can't hear you. Anyway, it's like any business. Quick to rise, quick to fall, slow to rise, slow to fall. If McDonald's starts selling bad burgers, it would still take them 10 years to go out of business. If you do something, it's a short company, you go up really quick and you come right down really quick. And so you're right, there is tremendous value in slow growth as long as you continue to grow.
Right. Can you hear me decently now?
No, I heard you best when the mic was right up against your mouth, but I don't know what's going wrong.
Okay, here, give me 1 sec. I have a feeling that it's me starting this watch party. I think that it's eating up my computer. Boop, boop. All right, here we go. Are we back?
Yep, it's good for now.
Yeah, for now. I'm sure that it's this cable, honestly. No, I agree with, I mean, all of that wholeheartedly. It's a beautiful concept when you have these moments where you realize that these skills that you've accumulated over a period of time and you're pushing constantly day in and day out. Um, it looks like the people are commenting and saying that they can hear us pretty well, so that's good. Um, that just results in something accumulated over a period of time. And I think that patience is something that's massive when it comes to being able to do that. Um, and that's the second half of that skill, I think, is outside of understanding how quickly time is passing, is also having the ability to understand and put into context that you need to be patient in order to be as proficient as possible in skills over time.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm still struggling hearing you a little bit, but yeah, they don't say patience is a virtue by accident, because it is. And, there's an adage where they go, I want, Lord, give me patience, but give it to me right now.
Right.
Everybody wants patience, but nobody wants to take the time to get the patience. So, anyway, so that's that. But just like I always tell you, as long as you're moving the ball forward, um, something good's happening.
Right. So the second question, you say, if you can live with it, I can live without it.
Yeah. I got that line from a dear friend of mine. Her name is Dorothy Locklear. Uh, Somebody had cheated them in a business deal one time. And they tried legal and tried all kind of different ways to get the guy to be fair with them. And the guy would not be fair. And in the end, her being a tremendous woman of tremendous faith, she said to him, whatever his name was, if you can live with it, I can live without it. And I think there's so many things, you call it karma, guilt, whatever it is. But so many times people are something less than fair with us as we go through our life. And we harbor those ugly feelings and hate and discontent and for a long time.
Yeah.
And it seems like the people that are harboring the hatred get hurt worse than who you're hating.
Mhm.
And so there comes a point where you need to come, to grips with yourself and just say, listen, if they can live with it, I can live without it. And it doesn't hurt to tell that person that, but it's just real simple because you can't let that eat you up inside for the rest of your life because it could shorten your life.
Yeah. Wow.
And so, yeah, somebody said to me one time, I forget what teacher it was, and I think I was in the junior high, and I wish I could remember who it was, but I don't. But I said something, and they go, and I said, that isn't fair. As a young teenager, that isn't fair. And they said to me, and time stood still. They said, John, you're going to understand something. Life isn't fair. And when you really come to grips with the fact that life is not fair, then you're able to take that off the table. And you don't count on it as being something that is that, necessary or profound in your life. It's most time life is two things: survive or surrender. And you have to pick which one you want to do. Are you going to be a survivor or are you going to surrender? And so when somebody cheats me in something or somebody's less than fair, the question I come back to, which is soothing yet factual, is guess what? If you can live with it, I can live without it. I'll be fine.
Right. Okay, so for the listeners that are listening right now, if you could message me and let me know that you can hear me okay. That would be
I cannot
appreciated.
hear you. Okay.
You cannot?
What's that?
You can't
No,
hear
we're
me?
We're struggling again.
Okay. Um. So
There again.
So for the listeners here, remember that the easiest way to get the word out about this is to click share and then click start watch party so that you can invite your friends over and to come hang out. If you believe that we're offering, that positive advice. Chris, it looks like Chris says, good. Bradley Shue says, much love, stopping by to say hi and thank you guys for having a platform that promotes the overall betterment of humanity. I'll stop back in if I can. And then we have Megan Dusenberry that says that she loves Samantha's. So that was good free advertising for Samantha's there. If you can live with it, I can live without it. I want to take that and kind of apply it to like things that have become kind of, I don't want to say standard, but me and my brother were kind of talking about like the standard of what a good person or a good guy is kind of today in this day and age. And he was like, well, basically, like if I'm not, cussing somebody out constantly or being physical with somebody or whatever else, then I'm, a good person. And I was like, no, that's not necessarily the thing. Like there's a lot of people that engage in actions that they say they can't live without or they can live with. They have a conscience that is at a level that they can live with an act that they commit. Right. And to me, it's like, okay, just because you can live with it doesn't mean I can. I'm going to choose to live without it. And I think that one of the perfect examples of that is actually you and choosing not to consume alcohol over a long period of time. Right? Like because somebody chooses that that's a part of their life and they can live with it doesn't mean that you necessarily can't, that you choose to. You are actively choosing to live without it. Right. And to me, like that another way that statement could be interpreted is potentially down that rabbit hole. If you were able to hear that with the mic and everything, if is that another way that you could see that statement being interpreted? If so, could you expand on that a little bit or maybe counteract it?
Well, again, I'm struggling to hear everything, but yeah. For example, you mentioned the alcohol. As you know, I've never drank alcohol in my life. It was a choice that I made when I was young. It's a choice that I've been happy to live with. There's been several things that's happened in my life to reinforce that for me. But you also have to understand that when I was young, I ran around with all kind of people that was drinking. And I was the designated driver before designated drivers were cool. I just made sure that my band of friends made it home safe every night, and then I would go home. So I've never been judgmental about it. It's a personal decision that I chose to make in my life, and I'm glad I did. But almost, I think probably all my friends, if not almost all my friends, drink. It's immaterial to me. It's not about. It was a personal decision that I made.
Mm-hmm.
So that's something that I chose to live without. But as if I understood your brother's conversation.
Oh, so everybody, it looks like we had a little bit of a disconnection error there with John. So I'll take to kind of announce what we're doing here. For those of you that are recognizing me from documenting the protests, my name's Jon Almacy. I'm the director of relations for the Apex Communications Network. We're a media startup located right downtown here in Canton, Ohio. We have podcasts, and then also we do these live streams periodically throughout the week centered around topics. And if you are a member of the hashtag EEA movement, you know that it's empathy, education, advocacy. That's kind of what we came up with for the protests specifically. Hey, Corey, how's it going? But our overall mission is really what we call empathetic mass communication. So it's bringing that connection back to humanity. Right. We believe that inside of marketing or inside of branding strategy and anything else, that there were some holes that we could fill, and that it was difficult to try to fill that hole without reestablishing this human empathetic connection. And so that's kind of our entire mission here at Apex Communications Network, is to provide that empathetic human connection within the context of education, advocacy, and podcasting media relations. So that's kind of our overall mission. If you really want to dive deeper into that, you can visit the Apex podcast. That's a perfect way to subscribe to that. It looks like John just tried to give me a call. Let me see what he says here. All right, guys, give me 1 second. Hey, what's up, buddy? Oh, really? No, it looks like you dropped out of the feed. Like your Wi-Fi went down or something. Okay, that's fine, man. I'm kind of giving them some updates on like who we are as a network and whatever else. So um if we did it over the phone, I would have to be at the studio to have the soundboard. So we can do that. I would just have to plan for that. Oh, yeah, yeah, that's fine.
There's a little bit of delay, but at least I can hear what you're saying.
On the thing.
Okay, talk to me on the computer.
All right, because I exited out of everything, so you should be able to still potentially hear me now, unless you're in a part of your house where the Wi-Fi is kind of janky.
It's just so you're so it's like you're talking through rubber. We got to get this ironed out if we're going to do this, because everybody else seems to be able to hear us, but it's hard for me to interact if I can't hear only every seventh word.
Right here, let me let's see. So I just switched over to the laptop microphone. Is that any better? Is that any better with the laptop microphone?
Yeah, right now I can hear you much better on the computer.
Okay, I'm just going to use the computer's microphone then, not this microphone, because I have a feeling the cable is what's making it bad.
Okay, then that's fine.
All right, guys. So just experienced a little bit of a technical delay. You guys have experienced that plenty of times while I've been on these live streams with my phone going down and everything like that. But John, basically what I was just telling them was that our goal here at the Apex Communications Network is to provide people with that human-centric connection, that we really thought that there was this gap as far as whether it was media or any other type of content that was missing this empathetic human connection. So I was really just explaining why we even started having these conversations in the first place. But so with this last line here, Katie Huffman says that's much better. So I have a feeling maybe it probably was my cable, John. I'll have to get a new mic cable for my at-home microphone.
Okay.
Yep. And Chris says, FYI, we can hear you both now. Problem fixed. Thanks, Chris.
Thanks,
Appreciate you
thanks.
keeping an eye out.
Just keep doing whatever you
So
hear you.
Yep. So we got I think that we really kind of hit that if you can live with that, live with it, I can live without it. So we'll move into this last point here, because I have a feeling that this one's going to take a little while here. So this last one is surrounded by strangers I thought were my friends. Why don't we kind of dive into where that statement kind of originated and what it means to you.
Well, I think it originated from a Bob Seger song. Then one time I was on a board and you go into a boardroom setting believing everybody's friends. But then as each battle continues to erupt and then ensue, you find out that it's not, people aren't as friendly as you thought you were. Well, and then that kind of goes out into like a metaphor for life. Because if we all think about your circle of friends. Can you trust them all? And you can all go to a Super Bowl party and have a fantastic time, high-fiving, eating good, life's good, it's fun, awesome. But then something happens that, you disagree politically, religion-wise, Browns versus Steelers, on and on and on, and you come to find that, and then it's so interesting to me how many times you think you know somebody, and then all of a sudden you learn something new, and it's like, man, I didn't know you at all. And so then so that's kind of where that came from, is when you think you're surrounded by friends, ultimately it turns out many times that you're surrounded by strangers. Think about people who you work with. You get to know them on such a superficial level, and you really never get to know them intimately and more importantly, truthfully. The truth about people's issues or hangups or, alcohol, drugs, marriage, kids are having trouble, friends, and so that's where it came from, is you think you have especially when I was younger, I thought I had a pretty good amount of friends, and you come to find they're not as close as you thought they were. Some of them are just circumstantial. Because you work together, you're friends, you move someplace else, or they quit, or you quit the job, you never hear from them again.
Right.
So it's the fragileness of relationships. And frankly, that can be a spouse. That could be, boyfriend, girlfriend, it can be whatever. But it's like, it seemed to me in my lifetime that so many times there's a surprise. I'm going to tell you, I have a very dear friend of mine that coached for 40 years. He coached in high school, college, and in the NFL. Mm-hmm. And if you would ask me, I'd say he had thousands of friends. And I remember we were together one time, and he said, John, everybody wants to golf with the football coach. Everybody wants to golf with the banker. But when your back's really against the wall, you find out who your friends are. And if you have 3 to 5 friends, including your spouse, you're really lucky. And I think if most people take a look at that in their life, it's probably pretty accurate as far as people that you're really, really close with, to trust with anything. The numbers are pretty small. So in the end, we're surrounded by strangers that at one point or another, we thought that we were friends.
Wow. I don't even really know where to start with that one. That's I think that the way that I kind of want to deconstruct this is for me personally in kind of 2 separate boxes, right? We got Kimberly Blankenship here says good friends are definitely rare.
Wait. Say what? Good friends are what?
She said good friends are rare.
Kimberly's right. She's right. That's a fact. And that's why I always say, too, if you have good friends, nurture that friendship. Spend the time. Invest in it. If you plant a garden and all of a sudden you don't do anything with it, all of a sudden you can't tell the peas from the beets from the corn from them because it's so full of weeds. But if you go out there and you really meticulously work the ground, nurture those, pick the weeds, do this, do that, all of a sudden you come out, you got a beautiful garden.
Yeah.
And it's exactly the same thing with friendships. If you're willing to invest the time, and it's an investment, not a spend. You don't spend the time, you invest the time.
Right.
And if you're willing to invest the time in friendships, and there again, keep them small. Get your 2 or 3 or 4 friends and invest in the time in making those friendships special. Be a friend. One thing I learned a long time ago is don't ask anything from anybody. Just be a good friend. Be good to them, but don't look for any favors. If there's favors coming, they'll come on their own. But you don't need to go looking for them, because all of a sudden people start to become suspicious as to, are we friends because you want to go out on my boat? Are we friends because you want to come over for dinner? Are we friends because you're hoping my dad will get you a job? Why are we really friends? And they're good friends want nothing. I don't want anything. I have friends that are incredibly wealthy. I have friends that are incredibly poor. But what happens is there's a certain thing in those circle of my friends that are people of character, they're people of integrity, they're people that I want, and we want nothing from each other than just the fact that we enjoy each other's company and we have just good friends. The friends of mine with money, I don't ask them for any special favors. And the friends I have with no money, they don't ask me for favors. We just enjoy each other's company. If I notice somebody needs something, I help them where I can. If somebody notices I need something, they might help me. But it's not about what you can get. It's about what you can give and invest in the relationship. Because the less you ask for, the better chance that you have a chance of people seeing you for being sincere, genuine, and just loving them for them. Just to love them for them, not for any reason other than that. Love them for them.
Yeah. I'm feeling a lot of that personally right now, just in the position that I'm in, right? Not to the point where I'm like, eccentrically wealthy or whatever else, but there's a lot of attention being pointed in different directions or whatever else. And I'm kind of having to sift through those friendships versus, I can count on 3, one of which is like my co-founder. Another one is I was best man in this gentleman's wedding. And then the third is my additional co-founder, right? That's just who I spend all my time with and who my trust is with. Robert says, finding good friends is time well spent. 110%, Robert. I agree. And so the side that I kind of wanted to explore is the psychological side, right? When you said that you are encountering them and you, especially at work or whatever else, that you never really truly know somebody on that deeper level. I think it's super interesting to me. One time my dad told me that he's married 4 different women. And I was super confused by that statement, right? Because he's only ever been married to my mom. And I was like, what do you mean you've married 4 different women? And he said, well, she was a different person when we first met. And then she was a different person after she had you. She was a different person after she had your sister. And she was a completely different person after she had your brother. So he's like, I've fallen in love and married 4 different women over the last 26 years. And so I was like, you believe. And I think that the point that I'm trying to narrow down to with what you said was that you felt that you never really truly know somebody. You only really know as much as information as they're willing to divulge. But if you're willing to take time and develop and nurture that relationship over time, that comfort level continues to get more and more back and forth. The roads that connect the 2 personalities, the 2 souls really continue to be open. And then over time, you get to know that person better. And it's okay that they change over the course of a long period of time. That's something that's always driven me insane, is like, I am not the 16-year-old borderline juvenile delinquent drug addict that I used to be. But that's okay. You can change over periods of time, right? And if those people are willing to stick that relationship out with you and continue nurturing that relationship, they become one of those 3 to 5 friends that you can really count on over time.
Yeah. Well, listen, like I always say, one lie ruins 1,000 truths. You have to invest a long period of time to gain someone's trust, because you have to go through several things with them. But when that happens, that's why so many times old friends are so amazing. Not that you can't have good new friends, but old friends knew you when you were young, when you were vulnerable, when you made mistakes. And if they stuck with you through all that time, then that's what you want. But it all comes back to, to trust, and who trusts you and why do they trust you?
Right.
And then when you get that trust, then somebody will say, "Hey, John, come here, man. I got a problem. Remember back 6 years ago when I did this?" Yeah. And they tell you this incredibly painful story that they haven't shared with anyone else,
Right.
And so that's what you want to. I've always wanted to be the guy you call at 3 a.m. when you're up against it, when you're stuck in the ditch, metaphorically or actually, at 3 a.m. I want to be the one you call.
Right.
And so
All right. Well, it looks like we had another a feed drop here. Luckily, now that COVID is starting to slow down, what we're going to be able to do is we're going to be able to bring John back into the studio so that we can continue recording. As of right now, I'm just, you're going to have to bear with us a little bit because we're really trying to push and continue to do these remote recordings and stuff like that. And part of having the remote recordings is that every now and then we experience these feed drops, which is extremely aggravating, especially if you're in the middle of an awesome conversation like we are right now with John. But inevitably, it's something that we can't avoid. So as soon as he gets popped back up in here, we'll finish up this thought. And then here we go. Easy peasy. So as I was saying, it's just sometimes with the remote recording, I was explaining that we have issues with the live feeds, but I think you were about to just wrap up the thought with the being the one that you want people to be able to call you at 3 o'clock in the morning in the ditch, either metaphorically or literally.
Yeah, well, it's just, if you really want to be a friend, you want to be a friend when people need a friend, not just when you need a friend. Like I said, it's good to go to the Super Bowl party and high five and eat good and have some laughs, all that stuff. But when somebody comes up to you and goes, "You know what? Come here a minute. I got a problem. I don't know who else I can trust with, but I want to share it with you." Will you listen? And you go, "Yeah."
Now, so I want to explore that just a little bit deeper. We still have, like 15 minutes left on here, so it's perfect. And this is more like no offense meant, but this isn't for the audience at all. I'm actually kind of just asking you man to man at this point for advice. So once you establish that reputation, right, as the person that's the go-to, that you can walk into a room and people just automatically know. I had a friend of mine last night that I haven't ran into in like 8 years. That we started in a conversation, and right off the bat, her first statement was, "You make me feel safe," and then divulged a ton of information that I'm now trying to process and help her with. So to the people that are those friends, those designated vent places, I call myself a human, right? So those types of people, what advice can you give to those types of people that are those designated people inside of their friend groups on how to carry that weight, even though they feel like they are obligated to try to help these people fix their problem? Is it more just listening and trying to be there for that person, or is it having another confidant that you can try to pass off to? What would you recommend as far as carrying the weight of those stories that get told to you?
Well, one thing you got to ask yourself in carrying the weight is, can I carry the weight? Can I carry the weight in confidence? Meaning, am I going to be able to keep that secret? Most people can't keep secrets, let's be honest. And so you have to be able to, I have secrets that could destroy people's careers, marriages, relationships, all that stuff. But you have to ask yourself, are you confident and competent enough to keep those secrets safe if that's what you're asked to do? And that goes to the integrity, and that goes back to the trust. If somebody trusts you with something, you have to be the one to keep it quiet,
Mm-hmm.
And so here too, if that burden becomes too great, when somebody goes, "Hey, I got a secret, I got to tell you," you go, "Please don't. I can't. I'm not good at keeping secrets. Don't tell me. Unless it's public knowledge, don't tell me." But if you're capable of carrying that burden and being a covert operator to help people through things, then great for you, better for them. And then you just got to go. Sometimes it's hard to file that stuff away and remember what you're allowed to tell and what you're not allowed to tell. Sometimes it's better just to tell nothing, But it just goes back to the relationships of what do you want? What do you want to invest in a relationship? And you're tested over time. You're tested over time, and then that's where the trust comes from. If you continue to not only be trustworthy, but be able to hand out good advice that is, doesn't benefit you in any way. It's 100% to benefit the people that you're trying to help.
Yeah, I love that that final statement there on advice, because I feel like there's so many times that you get, and me and you just had this conversation the other day, right? I called you and I was like, "John, I need an objective opinion." Um and you said that everybody needs that at least one person in their ear that they can truly understand is going to give them no BS and isn't going to try to blow smoke up
Right.
there, and say, "Hey, no, this is how it is. This is how I see it. This is where I think could potentially benefit you the best." And it takes a long time of consistent, not just words, but those words matching up with the actions verbatim, in order for somebody to build the trust to believe that you have their best intention at heart on a consistent basis. And one thing that I think is awesome about living a way that, that you have lived your life and that you have taught me to live my life is that over a period of time, people just automatically know that that's how you operate the minute you walk into a room. And, that doesn't happen overnight, but people
That does
know
not
that,
happen over there, right?
yeah, people know that over a period of time, you walk in and you say, my word to you is worth more than a contract. That takes time to build up the reputation to be able to say that. But once you reach that point and you say, "Hey, this is what it means," you're no longer surrounded by strangers. Those people all become acquaintances or friends, people that trust you because you trust yourself and you trust your ability to hold true to your word, which is something that is beautiful.
Let me tell you something else. That's all good, but at the same time, there's always going to be a naysayer. There's always going to be a stranger in the crowd that you thought you knew, and then here comes a surprise. But here's the thing: you can't take that personal. You just have to understand, much like I said, life isn't fair. Well, relationships aren't fair either all the time, and so you just do the best you can to be the best you can for those people wanting nothing in return, and that's when you get your best chance of being, having a certain amount of close friends. Trust
Right.
is a hard thing. Just like in the movie Open Range, where I told you before, Button gets caught cheating, and Robert Duvall says to him, "A man's trust is a valuable thing. Don't lose it over a handful of cards." Because so many times you lose your trust. People lose their trust in you because of something stupid or little.
Right.
And so you don't want to you lose somebody's trust over a handful of cards, metaphorically, of course.
Yeah. Yeah. That last statement, the whole surrounded by strangers I thought were my friends. There's so many times that you encounter these types of situations in life that, whether like you pointed out, whether it's work or it's people that you've been friends with for a long time, it's not quantity. As I always tell people when it comes to friends, it's not quantity of friends that you really want to go for. And like social media seems to have really boosted that the quantity of your friends really bounds and determines your worth. I have 5,000 likes here. I've got 10,000 people here. I've got 40,000, whatever, yada, yada, yada. But what I really believe in is the quality of the friends, right? If you can have 3 quality humans that you can count on day in and day out, that is absolutely an amazing, amazing thing. And actually, let's see, Paula Martin, I'm assuming maybe, says, do your personal best every day. If you look in the mirror before going to bed at night and tell yourself that you had integrity and character that day, you will rest peacefully. That is, wow, Paula, that's awesome.
Pretty good.
Yeah, that lines up.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
That lines up pretty much, I would say, pretty. I'd give that 100% with the Deitz playbook there.
Yeah.
That is
Go
ahead.
I didn't hear what you said.
I was going to say, just if you had anything to add to that, then by all means, we still have about 5 minutes here.
Well, I think she said it great. The problem we have is, how many people in your life can live by what she just put up there? How many people really run their life with character, integrity, or run their life involving in your life and have that kind of integrity and character? Not a lot. That's why most people have a small scope of friends. But there again, it don't matter if you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, as long as you have good quality people in your life that can in life make you better. You can make them better. But the problem is it's situational. For example, Jon, like where you are, you're trying to start a business and you're running it and things are good. You have no idea who people, what people want from you or not. No. I've always said, here's what I always say: beautiful women and rich men have the same curse. You never really know what they want you for.
Yeah. That's fair. Yep.
Right?
Yep.
You're a multimillionaire. You don't know if people want you because you're such a dashing young man or because they want to get close to your cash. If you're a gorgeous woman, you don't know if somebody really is really into your personality and brain or something else.
Right. Yeah, we won't open up that can of worms, but
not this late in the show.
Yeah, not this late. I was going to say that's a completely different ball game of a conversation, my man.
But wait a minute, Jon. But remember the thing we talked about before, where I said I'd rather have someone's respect than their body. You don't get that very often, and there again, that can be literal or metaphorical. You know what I mean?
Yep. 100%. Yeah, we talked.
It goes back to that thing we talked about taking a drunk girl home. You take your drunk girl home, you do the right thing by her, and you make sure that she's tucked in, house is locked, keys are where they're supposed to be, and you leave, as opposed to taking advantage.
Yep. And those are the actions right there. Like if anybody is listening to this and they're really trying to gain that ability to command respect when they walk into a room, that is probably the number one thing that I've encountered this week is Jon, how are you capable of walking up to somebody and instantaneously commanding respect that when you talk, people tend to listen or X, Y, and Z? And I didn't really think about it until this week. And then I started thinking about kind of like what you said, is that I choose on a daily basis to say, I'm going to be honest with you, whether or not it's going to hurt a little bit up front or it's going to, cause a little bit of a ruckus. I'm going to be honest. I'm going to act with integrity. You know that if I give you my word, I'm going to follow through on it. And I'm the type of guy to take a drunk girl home and then leave the keys on the counter. Right. And those types of actions consistently over a period of time, that's what allows you to command respect. There's no secret formula. There's no magic wand. There's no like 3 easy steps to success to do that. It's just being a decent human and holding yourself to a higher standard over a long period of time. There's no shortcut. You can't shortcut it.
Here's the thing, too. John, here's the thing. Don't tell me what you're going to do. Show me what you're going to do. Right?
Right. Yeah.
Live your life in a manner that if I say I'm going to be there at 20 till 6, when you walk out the door at 20 till 6 in a rain, I'm sitting there with the car running.
Right.
If I tell you I'm going to pay you back a loan of $75 on Thursday, make sure you pay that loan. Don't tell me nothing. You have the cash in your hand or you don't.
Right.
Right. Yep. And I used to say this about my dad all the time. If my dad told you he was going to drive his truck through your front door in 20 minutes, you got about 15 minutes or so to get the shit away from the door. Because he's coming through.
Yeah. Yep.
Because the way he lived his life, if he told me this is going to happen, it's going to happen.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll go ahead and say, let's see here. So we got another comment. She says she's an HR manager and that she coaches her employees to stand up to people even when life shits on them. Right. To stand up to people constantly. And this is something like you teach others. This is how she followed it up. She said, we teach others how to treat us by speaking up if they do or say something we don't like. And this is something that kind of opens up that door into the whole, you're not what you strive for, you turn into what you tolerate type of deal. Where if you allow people to consistently commit an action, you can't just overnight say, that's not cool with me. You're not allowed to do that anymore. Like if you're allowing this type of action over and over and over again, whether it's in a relationship or it's in whatever else, sometimes it's no fault of your own. Sometimes it's the way that the system was set up or that person's relationship personality or whatever else. But this whole entire thing, I love that statement. We teach others how to treat us by speaking up if they do or say something we don't like. And I'm going to use myself as an example here. I've ran into issues as a young man in relationships before because I'm not a mind reader and I'm horrible at picking up on these. Sometimes if I'm doing something stupid that's pissing you off, I would rather you just say, hey, Jan, that's driving me up a wall. Please stop. Then I'd be like, okay, I noticed that that's now driving you up a wall. Oh, awesome. I will quit doing that. But if you don't speak up and tell me, I'm like, as many prolific thoughts as I seem to have in these conversations, I'm a 24-year-old dude. Like, I have a ton of learning left to do. So please, like, for the love of everything, if I'm doing something that's agitating you, just tell me. Like, because obvious hints aren't going to work. Like, I need you to hit me in the face with the shovel and say, stop it. And then I'll be like, okay, that makes sense.
Hey, what have I said to you? Knock it off, jackass. You got to have somebody who's going to tell you.
Exactly.
Right?
Right. Exactly. So that, I definitely love that statement. This is cool being able to have this interaction from the audience finally. So I think that honestly, that's kind of we're kind of getting to that wrap up point, and I'm gonna kind of reread these 3 points today, just so that everybody that's just now tuning in can understand what we talked about today. But the first one was don't count the days, make the days count. And John really kind of pointed out that it's not, we constantly think about days moving in hours or minutes or seconds even. But he said, think about how quickly 100th of a second is passing by and how much time is valuable. It's the only non-renewable resource, really, right? I mean, you're constantly just losing time. You can't go backwards. And then number 2 was if you can live with it, I can live without it. And so, John, if you kind of want to give just like a short general synopsis of that one, then we can just talk about number 3 a little bit, and then I think we'll be good.
Well, you broke up again. I didn't hear the final question.
Oh, if you can live with it, I can live without it. Just a short synopsis of what we talked about with that. If you can hear me still, maybe not.
Yeah, I can hear you. No, I can hear you. It's just so basically go over what we just did. You mean?
Yeah. Just like this is the wrap up. So just the highlights.
Yeah, it's just a matter of it. If you're going to cheat, if you're going to be disrespectful, if you're going to whatever, it comes down to that. It's your conscience. If you can live with it, I can live without it. You got to have a level of confidence to be able to say that. So many times people find themselves in situations that they stay into because they have no confidence to get out of. But there comes a point, people treat you like you let them. I heard Oprah say that one time, and I never forgot it. People treat you like you let them. And so there comes a point where you go, listen, that's enough. If you can live with it, I can live without it. And then you move on, because you can't control people all the time. You can't control. So just, that comes down to their character and their morals against your character and your morals. And okay, so you cheated me for $15. If you can live with it, I can live without it.
Yep. Yeah. And then number 3 was just surrounded by strangers I thought were my friends. And we just spent the last, probably 20 minutes talking about that point. So I'm not gonna wrap that one up too much there. But it's really just, you never really know. I think the biggest takeaway that I got from that was quality over quantity of people, and that you never really understand. You only really know as much about a person as they're willing to divulge to you, and it takes time to develop that relationship, and you have to invest and nurture that relationship in order to get them to become less and less of a stranger over time.
Right. Here's the problem too, is there's so many people that are hypocritical, and I'm not even saying it to be mean. They're not what they're not what they say they are. And so it takes a while to really get to, and my mom used to say all the time, actions speak louder than words. Over time, you can get a pattern of truth out of how people just carry themselves, saying nothing. If somebody says they're going to do something and they don't over and over again, it doesn't take long for you to figure out that person can't be trusted for their word. And so, it all depends how far you want to go with it.
Right. So we'll go through a couple of these comments here. So it looks like, let's see here. Robert James Walker says, this is my first time in this show. I started watching your protest lives and I like it here. I think I'll stick around. So Robert, welcome to the crew. We appreciate you coming to hang out.
Yep.
And then it looks like Angie says, this is so awesome. Very good podcast. Awesome, Angie. I'm glad that we're able to provide you a little bit of value for now, and definitely come back week by week. And there's definitely always some amazing conversations here. And let's see here. Angela Hardesty says, Robert James Walker, this is my first time as well. I think I'm going to stick around as well. Pretty interesting stuff.
Good.
This is good. And then Corey Ramsey, she says, makes me think of the perks of being a wallflower, quote, we accept the love we think we deserve. That's a very profound statement. Yeah. Unfortunately, we're kind of out of time to dive into that. And so maybe we'll kind of save that and dive into it a little bit next week. But so for everybody that's tuned in, this has been another episode of Wisdom with Jon Deitz, aka the Deitz Playbook, on the Apex Communications Network. I appreciate you guys coming to hang out with us. I know there's been, between like 30 and 50 of you over the last hour. I always appreciate you guys coming to spend time and listen to an amazing mentor of mine, Mr. Jon Deitz. So we will see you guys again, hopefully next week. There will be some more protest live streams and everything else like that going on. I took a break from it today to spend some time with my family because it's my sister's birthday and she may be moving back to New York here soon. So that's if you guys are listening and you want an explanation as to why I'm not on the streets right now, that's why. So I hope that all of you guys have a safe rest of your evening. And until next time, keep chasing that apex.